Okay, so today we're going to do one last video doing a deep dive into the new 2.0 release for the Nano Cortex. So I did a video on the overdrives and compressors. I did a video on the modulation utility effects. I'll put links to those in the descriptions. But today what we're going to do is focus on the delays and reverbs. So I've got my Nano Cortex hooked up and I've got the app up on my phone. You can see it here. And let's go ahead and dig in. So I'm using a preset that's using a Tone King Imperial capture from Amalgam. Just a nice little Fendery clean. It sounds like this. So we turn off the delays and reverbs. So nice and dry. Let's go ahead and dig into delays. Now, the first thing I will say is the delays and reverbs are in dedicated slots on the Nano Cortex. So the delays in the second to last post slot, we can see that here. You can put other things in here in terms of the utilities and the compressors, but the delays can only go in this slot. And then the reverbs are in the last slot, and this is the only place they can go. So let's start off with the delays. We'll start off with the analog delay. This is the delay type that came with the 1.0 version of the Nano Cortex. So you can see here, it's pretty straightforward controls and very typical to what you'll see on the Quad Cortex and other devices for delay. So you've got a mix, you've got a feedback, you've got a high pass and low pass filter. So that allows you to kind of shape the sonic characteristics and the tonality of the delays. You can ping pong. So, if you're listening in stereo, if I ping pong, the delay starts bouncing back and forth. You've got your delay time. You've got a modulation on this with a rate and depth. You've got width, which is affecting kind of the stereo spread. And then on this one, you have a little bit of a drive. We turn up the drive. Start just a little bit of like distortion on the delays. So pretty straightforward. If we go to the next delay, you've got the circular delay. So this one is a little less straightforward. So the circular delay is a delay that's kind of got a more interactive feel to it. If I play, and the first setting, obviously after mix, is you can do the number of interactions you want to have. So if I set to 5 versus if I set it to 2. So you can go crazy and go all the way up to 6. So and then you've got feedback, diffusion, which is kind of controlling the decay, so to speak, of the sound of the delay. So here, if I go back to 1, bring the delay times down. If I crank the diffusion, so you start to hear a little bit of a variation entering there. You've got your high pass and low pass filter. Again, you've got mod rate, mod depth. You got a vintage mode. Again, it's a pretty subtle difference. You've got a digital delay here. Again, mixed feedback, high pass, low pass filters, ping pong, delay time, mod rate, mod depth, all the same stuff. The main difference here is the digital delay has this dynamic mode, and you can do ducking or you can do a gate. And what that allows is ducking specifically is something that gets used in studios to where it's restraining the effect while you're playing, and then when you stop, the effect kind of comes in more. So but if I turn on duck mode, and let's go ahead and set this to 20. So you can hear while I'm playing, it's kind of restraining the repeats, and then when I stop, those will come back. And then attack, release, and knee, that's all related to if we're doing a gate on the delay. So a lot of powerful capabilities there, and I'm impressed that they brought all of that from the Quad Cortex onto the Nano Cortex. You've got a dual delay, so this is pretty handy to where you've got two delays that are obviously different lengths. This also has the dynamic mode, so you can do the ducking on this as well, or the gate, and then you can link the feedback to. So a nice dual delay there, and especially I think that's useful in the Nano Cortex because you can only have one delay slot. So in the Quad Cortex, you can run two delays and you can stack them in series, in parallel, whatever you want to do. On the Nano Cortex, you can only run one delay. So having a dual delay I think is really powerful, especially if you want to do that kind of Andy Timmons halo kind of thing. You've got a dual reverse delay here. So I think that's pretty handy too. To be able to do a reverse delay on a device this small, I think is pretty impressive. You got a tape delay, so this is handy. If you want something a little warmer, you can increase. You've got the flutter, you've got the wow, you've got a drive. You can hear, I've got the flutter and the wow up pretty high. Normally wouldn't have them that high. So something just a little warmer, something that doesn't sound quite as maybe as pure as a digital delay. So I really like this for kind of lead tones and more overdriven, warmer tones that you want. A tape delay works really well. So that's a run through of the delays. Let's talk about the reverbs. So we'll turn the delays off. We'll go to the reverbs. So what we have to select from is we have the Mind Hall, this is the first one that was included in the 1.0 release of the Nano Cortex. So this is a little bit of a modulated reverb, just kind of nice overall. If we go, we've got an ambience. So this is a really slight reverb. You can say it's a kind of medium, small. You can hear that's very, very, minimal. Even the large. Obviously, you can affect the pre-delay and the mix as well. You've got a cave, which is kind of the opposite. It's a big booming kind of reverb. You've got a hall, which is kind of somewhere in between. And then I'll switch down. You've got a room reverb, which is maybe a little less than the hall. So if you go in terms of kind of most reverb to least reverb, you go cave, hall, room, ambience. Now, obviously, for all of them, you can adjust the pre-delay and the decay. So you can tweak it along that spectrum. You've also got the modulated reverb, which you can hear that you get a little bit of modulation, degradation of the sound. So you can hear it's somewhat similar to the Mind Hall, but slightly different. So those are the reverbs. So unlike the delays, delays, I feel like they've covered everything that they need to. I don't know if there's any other type of delay I would want added to it. But the reverbs, obviously we're missing plate reverb and we're missing the spring reverb. So I don't know why they chose to exclude those types. Maybe they require extra CPU to run. I don't know why a spring reverb or a plate reverb would be more CPUs than, doing the mind hall or the modulated. But I think they're something that probably needs to be added at some point in the future. So, that's a rundown of these two effect types on the Nano Cortex. Again, I feel like the 2.0 version has really kind of filled in all the missing pieces. I'd like to see a spring reverb, I'd like to see a plate reverb, but other than that, I don't know that there's anything missing. Now, you can always quibble about the quality of the reverbs from the Neuro DSP stuff. A lot of people do like to continue to use like a Strymon or something on the side with these. And obviously with the Nano Cortex, you could definitely do that. You could be running that side by side with the Nano Cortex on a pedal board. But overall, I think this is a pretty good starting point. And I think it really makes the Nano Cortex, highly usable. So I hope you enjoy these deep dives in the Nano Cortex. And as always, thanks for watching.